Hello and welcome back to another episode of Sully Infodumps about animatronics for an unhealthy length of time. Fans of this channel have already heard me yap about the Rockafire explosion for years on end by now. And for those who aren't in the know, what it really boils down to is the Rockafire explosion was an animatronic band in the 1980s in a Chuck E. Cheese style pizza arcade. See how easy that was? I didn't need to make that video 40 minutes, I just chose to do that. But in all of my time talking about these beloved animatronics, I have failed to talk about one of the most important aspects of the characters: their voices. Yes, like any other animatronic character, there is a whole cast of talented people behind the scenes bringing these characters to life. Programmers, designers, and yes, voice actors. Now, these characters have traded hands quite a few times over the years, some more than others, and so I feel it's only fair that we finally give these talented musicians and vocalists the credit they deserve for entertaining us over the past 40 years. The whole reason I'm making this video is because just a few months back in June of 2026, a ton of the original and current voice actors for the Rockafire explosion got together and performed in Volo, Illinois at the Volo Auto Museum to celebrate the debut of the first new Rockafire explosion show tape in over 30 years. And after watching these highly underappreciated musicians perform in the sweltering heat for over 2 hours straight, I knew it was my civic duty as an animatronic nerd to finally shine the spotlight on them. So let's rewind back to the year 1980 and meet the first incarnation of the Rockafire explosion. Now, while the first Showbiz Pizza opened in March of 1980, at the time of that store opening, the Rockafire explosion was not quite ready to make its debut yet. So in their place, an earlier creative engineering show called the Wolfpack 5 was installed in this first store. Just a few months later, in July of the same year, at the opening of the second location of Showbiz Pizza Place, the Rockafire explosion as we know them today would make their debut. I think there's a lot to say about the Wolfpack 5, but for simplicity's sake, and because I think they deserve their own video, we're going to skip over the Wolfpack 5 and start right at the modern-day Rockafire explosion. Now, the Rockafire explosion was unique in that it featured almost a dozen unique animatronics performing across 3 stages that spanned the entire length of a showroom. And what better place to start our story than over on stage right? On stage right, we're introduced to Rolf de Wolf and his puppet sidekick Earl Schmerl, who host the eponymous Rolf and Earl show. Now, Rolf de Wolf is a wolf, go figure, but Earl Schmerl is seemingly a sentient puppet. No, this isn't the case of Rolf de Wolf having a secret ventriloquism skill. Earl is seemingly his own living being trapped inside the body of an animatronic puppet. I don't think I'm qualified enough to speak on such a moral dilemma like this, so we're gonna move on. Rolf and Earl's involvement in the Rockafire show tapes, especially in the earlier years, consisted mostly of them doing their own little variety act on the side and very rarely interacting with the rest of the Rockafire characters. You could think of the Rolf and Earl segments as interstitials of sorts. They acted as the comedic relief that also allowed the rest of the band to take a much-needed break. They had skits and performances that would become staples of the early Rockafire explosion show tapes, such as the iconic Hit the Cymbal routine.
What'd you do that for?
What?
Hit the cymbal.
Okay.
No.
And Earl Schmerl, being Rolf's literal right-hand man, was always there to comfort him when his own imposter syndrome got in the way.
You know what you are.
Yeah. I'm a geek.
No, Rolf. You're not a geek.
No?
Nah. You're a screaming geek.
Later on, especially in the Cyberstar era, Rolf and Earl were much more likely to show up in show tapes alongside the rest of the Rockafire explosion characters, much to some of their dismay.
Okay, let's hear it for the big old fat monkey.
I'll break your neck, Rolf.
But even though they became more and more prominent in show tapes over the years, they were always the first choice for the animatronic for Showbiz to remove when they were testing out new concepts. Notable occasions include the installation of Uncle Clunk, Santa Claus, and Country Clunk, along with both the Statue of Liberty show and the Yogi Bear retrofit. I've done much more comprehensive deep dives on those stages, so if you want to learn more, go check out those rabbit holes. Now, although Rolf and Earl are both their own separate entity in the universe of the Rockafire explosion, both characters were voiced by the same person, co-founder of Showbiz Pizza Place and inventor of the Rockafire explosion, Aaron Fechter. You'll notice Aaron's name come up a lot when we're talking about the early voice actors, but unlike a lot of the other characters, Rolf and Earl have never switched hands. Since their debut in 1980, Aaron has been voicing this talentless wolf and his snarky puppet sidekick. As someone who grew up wanting to be a puppeteer but wound up being a talentless hack, I really relate to Rolf de Wolf, and I appreciate Aaron allowing that kind of representation to shine on stage. Aaron even voiced an earlier iteration of Rolf de Wolf, aptly named the Wolfman from the aforementioned Wolfpack 5. Again, there's more to unpack there, but we will have to save that for another video. As we move over to center stage, I'm going to start off by talking about everyone's favorite surfing polar bear, Beach Bear. Beach Bear can always be found sitting on his signature red and yellow surfboard, perched atop a tree trunk, absolutely having the time of his life. Now, I did say Beach Bear was a polar bear, which is quite obvious based on the color of his fur, but wouldn't you be interested that he originally had a different color of fur? That's right, the earliest versions of Beach Bear actually had gray fur, using the same exact fur they used on the Rolf de Wolf animatronic. But luckily, these two characters were placed so far apart in the showroom that nobody would be able to notice that they were reusing that same fur. In the early 80s, his fur was switched over to white, establishing the character as we know it today. Now, in the early days of the Rockfire Explosion, aside from the notable difference in fur color, there was another very drastic difference in the character of Beach Bear: the voice. You see, when the Rockfire Explosion debuted in 1980, Beach Bear was once again voiced by Aaron Fechter. My god, that is 3 characters he's voicing all at once, but luckily I don't think he's going to be voicing any more. Beach Bear's original voice was much more doofy and dopey sounding, along with his personality being the definition of chaotic neutral.
I said I work it off, baby. Work it off. I say you're driving me crazy. Work it off. I wear a little bit of soul.
Like I mentioned earlier, there was a huge concert event held at the Volo Museum in June where they played all of the greatest Rockfire Explosion hits. And within those greatest hits, Aaron Fechter reprised his role as Beach Bear for the first time in nearly 45 years. He even remarked at the time that he thought he would never have to do that voice again. I'm sorry, Aaron, the children yearned for Do You Love Me? Now, Aaron told a fascinating story at the Volo Show about the character of Beach Bear that I had never heard before. In around 1982, Aaron was recording vocal tracks for a new Rockfire show tape and was having trouble figuring out how a specific song was going to be performed. So he very nonchalantly asked the employee behind the soundboard how he thought it should sound. And wouldn't you know it, this employee by the name of Rick Bailey stood up and belted out a flawless performance of the song. To which Aaron responded, "You can sing? Why didn't you tell me you could sing?" Aaron excitedly called in the rest of the band to show this new talent he discovered, and just moments after belting out a show-stopping performance, this is how Rick Bailey chose to show off his talents to the band members.
Feeling. Nothing more than feelings.
Honestly, no notes. The rest of the band was unamused and left the room to get back to work, but Aaron knew that he found something special. And so, after just hearing him sing for the first time, Aaron Fechter decided to bestow upon Rick Bailey the role of a lifetime, a role that he would be remembered for decades later. Rick Bailey was given the role of the Moon. Yes, that's right. What better use for Rick Bailey's insane talents than to have him sing as an anthropomorphic moon for 22 seconds? All jokes aside, Aaron did see that Rick was perfect for the role of Beach Bear, and so following his performance as the Moon in the Abbey Road show tape, the character of Beach Bear was formally handed off to Rick Bailey. And honestly, inspired casting choice. Beach Bear went from a dopey-sounding bear to a smooth-talking, velvety-voiced icon in mere seconds. Seriously, the vocal range of Rick Bailey in this role is unmatched. Rick Bailey has been voicing Beach Bear for over 44 years now, with the character never switching hands again after his official assumption of the role. I know it sounds weird to essentially say this about an animatronic band, but we may not be worthy of the talent he brings to the table. Seeing him perform live at Volo and have the entire audience in the palm of his hand was something to behold, and to quote a very enthusiastic polar bear, just makes you want to go, Now, a quick tangent before we get into the rest of the characters. Since I've been traveling a lot for this channel recently, I've been trying to better keep track of my finances, and I think I finally found the perfect solution with today's sponsor, Rocket Money. That's right, your boy got sponsored by Rocket. As a content creator, it seems like every software I use is on some sort of subscription basis model these days, and so it is very easy for me to forget that I have recurring payments going on. True story, I had once somehow signed up for an Adobe stock membership and only realized after numerous years, after hundreds of dollars of credits had built up and then promptly expired. If only I had signed up for Rocket Money back then. Rocket Money makes it incredibly easy to securely link all of your accounts and shows you exactly what services you're paying for, when the next payment is due, and allows you to cancel your subscriptions all within the app. No joke, when I was setting up my account to record this very sponsorship, I realized I had a $15 monthly recurring payment for an audio software that I have not used in maybe 2 years. And if you're looking to save money and track your expenses, be sure to go over to rocketmoney.com/Sully to get signed up for your free premium trial. Or you can scan the QR code on the screen or click the links in the description below. There are so many options. Again, that's rocketmoney.com/Sully. Now back to the animatronic info dump. Mitzi Mozzarella is the resident mouse cheerleader of the Rockfire Explosion, because the inclusion of a cheerleader is the mark of any good band, right? Now the history of Mitzi is interesting because she is an evolution of a character from the Wolfpack 5, who herself is an evolution from within her own timeline. The Wolfpack 5 originally had a female vocalist named Queenie, and while we're giving credit to the voice actors, huge shout out to Queenie's voice actress Denise Cahill, who only voiced her for a single show but left such a mark.
Foxy was my boyfriend, so slick, so sharp, so cool.
When the decision was made to temporarily install the Wolfpack 5 in the first Showbiz Pizza location, the executives requested that Queenie be transformed into a mouse. Now, could this possibly be because they wanted to overshadow the mouse character of their competitor? Who's to say? Yes, of course, that's why they did it. And thus, Minnie Mozzarella was born. Minnie? Yes, Minnie Mozzarella, voiced by Brenda Gretchel, joined the Wolfpack 5 for a very short period of time. And while she looked very different than what we're used to, she essentially laid the groundwork for the character that we know and love today.
Mickey was my boyfriend, so slick, so sharp, so cool.
And so, just a few months later, a new character was born, and that character was Mitzi Mozzarella. Now, based on every other character we have talked about so far, I want you to take a guess on who was the first person to voice Mitzi Mozzarella. Now, be forewarned, the answer is not your first. Of course it was. It was Aaron Fector. Yes, Aaron Fector was the first one to voice Mitzi, and it was a choice.
My boy lollipop, you make my heart go.
As you can hear, they digitally pitched up his voice for all these show tapes, making him sound much more like a chipmunk than a mouse. And it may be just me, but these few show tapes that have Aaron Fector voicing Mitzi hold a special place in my heart. Sure, they might not be as good as the later voice actresses, but there's just something so charming about the inventor of an animatronic band voicing every single character at the same time. So to mark the end of the reign of Aaron Fector as Mitzi Mozzarella, please enjoy this rendition of Here Comes Santa Claus, which was hastily removed from all Showbiz Pizza locations due to what some guests complained was a random obscenity thrown in.
Here comes Santa Claus, here comes Santa Claus, walking down Santa Claus Lane.
Okay, so I absolutely know he or she is saying walking, but my brain fails to accept that, and so I choose to live in a reality where Santa Claus is doing unspeakable things down Santa Claus Lane. I mean, it's his lane. Who am I to stop him? The next person to voice Mitzi Mozzarella was Monique Danielle, who voiced her for a whopping 1 show tape. Although, to be fair, she sang on Sal's Birthday, which is one of the most iconic Rockfire Explosion show tapes, so if she was going to choose 1 show to sing on, she chose the best possible option. At the time, Showbiz was looking to hire a child actress to voice Mitzi so that younger patrons of Showbiz Pizza Place would have a character they could relate to. And amongst a sea of children auditioning for the role, the first person to walk through the doors was 11-year-old Shalisa James. Accompanied by her father on piano, Shalisa auditioned with the song Tomorrow from Annie, something she recounted at the Volo show in June, and even treated the audience to a live rendition of it over 40 years later. So needless to say, with a voice like that, Shalisa was immediately given the job, because of course she was. And so now, at just 11 years old, she had to somehow hold her own in a room of professional musicians. And somehow, she did just that. Whether she was singing I Want to Be Free by the Monkees or Talking in Your Sleep by the Romantics, her voice stood out in such a wonderful way. And yes, Shalisa and the Rockfire Explosion did perform Talking in Your Sleep 40 years before the Five Nights at Freddy's movie came out.
I hear the secrets that you keep when you're talking in your sleep.
And based on their performance of the song at Volo, they still got it.
I hear the secrets that you keep when you're talking in your sleep.
Now, a fun fact I love to tell people is that Mitzi Mozzarella is the only character of the Rockfire Explosion to have a canonical age. Since Showbiz was hoping to create a character that children could relate to, it was decided very early on that Mitzi Mozzarella would assume the age of Shalisa. This meant that every year Shalisa grew older, so did Mitzi Mozzarella. Mitzi Mozzarella is now canonically 56 years old, and Shalisa James has been lending her amazing vocal talents to the iconic mouse for over 45 years. And I'd be remiss not to mention that Shalisa has disclosed that she's been battling stage 4 cancer over the past few years. She revealed to the Volo audience that back in 2022, her doctors told her she had 3 years to live and would never perform again. But in the year 2026, Shalisa is still with us and still graciously sharing her incredible talent with us day after day. She wrote a book called 3 Years Left, and I genuinely hope that everyone watching this can go out, buy the book, and support Shalisa in every way possible. I think now is a great time to talk about the frontman of the Rockfire Explosion, the gorilla glue that holds the band together, Mr. Fats Geronimo. You'll probably remember Fats from your childhood for his terrifying appearance paired with some remarkably gifted musical skills that he made sure to show off by playing his magical tune machine.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present the keyboard of the future, the Tune Machine. Now, if y'all gonna sound like a Wheel of Fortune audience, let's at least get it right.
Now, Fats, like many other Rockfire Explosion characters, originated in the Wolfpack 5, but I would argue that of all the characters that were carried over to the Rockfire Explosion, he was the one that was changed the least. Even back in the Wolfpack days, Fats could be seen sporting his iconic golden tux and rocking out on an admittedly much more rudimentary piano. Sorry, they hadn't developed the Tune Machine technology in 1978. And additionally, he even had the same voice actor for that entire era, that being the incredibly talented Bert Wilson, or Sal as he's known to his friends. Remember the iconic show tape I mentioned a few minutes ago, Sal's Birthday? Well, the reason it was called that is because it was written by Bert Sal Wilson. And there's an extra layer of specialness to the song when you realize the emotional impact it had on Aaron Fector at the time.
And that was actually one we called Sal's Birthday because the greatest musician I ever worked with, who we called Sal back in those days, wrote that. And a very touching song about a... It's making me cry because I miss Sal.
Sal was actually instrumental in the writing of a lot of the early Rockfire Explosion shows during the Showbiz Pizza era, and was also a very gifted musician and vocalist himself. There's also this iconic photo of Sal, Fats, and Michael Jackson, which has nothing to do with this story, but I feel like I have to show it. Sal would continue to voice Fats through the Showbiz Pizza era into the early 2000s, but for reasons we're not privy to, Aaron and Sal eventually had a falling out, leading to Fats being without a performer for the first time in nearly 30 years. But if there's one thing we've learned in this video, it's that every Rockfire Explosion character can be played by none other than Aaron Fector. Yes, Aaron is 5 for 5 in voicing Rockfire characters. Somebody stop this man! So Aaron's portrayal of Fats was very reminiscent of, and clearly his best imitation of, the character that Sal had so expertly crafted over the past decades. And since these new appearances were minimal, save for a few voice lines in a one-off YouTube video, I'm sure this voice change went unnoticed by a lot of casual viewers.
Well, we got Mitzi about to sing a song about Shakira. Little Latin lady whose hips do not lie. Yeah.
And it really seemed like Aaron would continue to voice that role indefinitely and that we would never see the return of Sal to the role of Fats Geronimo. But I love it when I'm proven wrong. In 2019, Aaron and Sal reunited at Creative Engineering's old stomping grounds in Orlando, Florida. I don't think anyone expected this to lead to Sal returning as Fats. I mean, I certainly didn't, but it was just so nice to see two old friends put aside their differences and get back together. I mean, seeing Aaron and Sal together after all this time, it just felt right. But then randomly, in May of 2021, with zero warning, the Rockfire Explosion dropped a cover of the Mystery Science Theater 3000 theme song, and Fats's voice sounded a little familiar.
Now keep in mind that Jonah can't control whether movie begins or ends. You'll have to keep his sanity with the help of his robot friend.
Yes, this was the first time in nearly 20 years that the entire original Rockfire Explosion cast got together for a new show tape. And unfortunately, it would be the last. On December 28th, 2023, Bert Wilson passed away at the age of 68, and I truly think that the world became a slightly darker place when he left. But I am incredibly grateful for the decades of work that he poured into the Rockfire Explosion, and I think it's safe to say that without Sal's involvement, the Rockfire Explosion as we know it would not exist today. While the animatronic community mourned the loss of such a talented musician, an important question was raised. What happens to Fats? The easiest option would be to have Aaron take over the role permanently like he did many years prior, but instead, for the first time since the conception of the band, a new member was about to be brought into the fold. Fats was now to be voiced by singer, songwriter, producer, and Grammy winner Shooter Jennings. Being the son of both Waylon Jennings and Jesse Coulter, he clearly had the musical background to play alongside the greats, but he had some big shoes to fill. The new Volo Museum show tape that was unveiled just a few months ago served as the public debut of Shooter Jennings taking on the role of Fats Geronimo, and here's what it sounds like.
Mustang Sally. Yeah. I guess you better slow your Mustang down. You know you heard what I said.
And can I just say, I'm actually relieved that we don't have someone trying their best to sound exactly like Sal. Sal was a once-in-a-generation talent. Sure, you could hire a sound-alike voice actor to do their best impersonation of Sal, but at that point, you're truly trying to replace Sal rather than have someone carry on the legacy of his character. I wasn't sure what I was going to think about a new voice coming out of Fats's mouth, but from the little bit we've heard at the Volo show, I'm actually very excited to see what this interpretation of the character brings. It feels new, fresh, and it comes from someone who has such a deep love and respect for these characters. So I'm very excited to see what Shooter does with the character moving forward, and I'm so happy that someone is carrying on the legacy of Sal. Speaking of Sal's character, I guess I can quickly touch on the fact that he also voiced nearly every prop character on the stage. We already talked about the moon being voiced by Rick Bailey prior to his casting as Beach Bear, but after that show tape, the role was then given to Sal. And as if he didn't already have his hands full, they also gave him the role of the Sun. Talk about a split personality. Luckily, like I said, these are prop characters and they very rarely have any dialogue in show tapes. But when they do, my God, I would have never known it was the same voice actor as Fats.
Beach Bear, I believe you need to have that guitar tuned up. I quite agree, and I'm sure we'll all be thrown in jail for defacing that monumental song by Frank Sinatra.
Along with the Sun and the Moon, Sal also voiced Fats' pet spider, Antioch. And I put the word voiced in air quotes because this is what Antioch's voice sounded like whenever he spoke.
Okay, well, I know. No, I can't play it anymore, Antioch. My fingers are tired. No.
So yeah, not so much speaking as it was garbled nonsense that only Fats could understand. Hell, I'm sure if they ever gave Choo Choo a speaking role, Sal would have been given that character too. So anyway, that brings Sal up to a whopping 4 characters being played simultaneously. That's nearly as many as Aaron. What range? The final character featured on center stage is none other than everyone's favorite drumming hound from outer space, ? It's Duke LaRue. Before his iconic spacesuit, he actually wore a plaid shirt and looked way too normal to be a part of the band in my opinion. So that spacesuit, what an upgrade. Duke was the only character of the Rockfire Explosion to be named after his voice actor, that being musician Duke Chipetta. I think both Duke the voice actor and Duke the character had the most iconic voice of the Rockfire Explosion. His sound was just so unique and seemed to fit with every genre they threw at him. I think he's most famously known within the Rockfire fandom for his rendition of Heartaches, which is just a much happier version of It's Just a Burning Memory. Duke Chipetta would continue to voice the character throughout the Showbiz Pizza era and then intermittently throughout the 1990s after the band was evicted from Showbiz Pizza Place. But during the early 2000s era of the Rockfire Explosion, when Duke Chipetta wasn't providing the voice, nobody stepped in to take over the character. I'm not sure if it was felt that the character was too special, or if Aaron thought it would be too hard to find someone of the vocal caliber to replace Duke, and so for whatever reason, the character went silent for many years. But in 2016, Duke would return in the unlikeliest of places. A realtor in Indiana had written a new jingle and wanted the Rockafire Explosion to be the band to sing it. So, Aaron Fechter obliged, got most of the original Rockafire Explosion together, including the elusive Duke Chipetta. Now, I don't know just how much of this is tongue-in-cheek, but in the video description, Aaron states that one of the issues with Duke Chipetta was that he didn't have a computer, and so in order to get his vocals, he had to physically mail a digital recorder to him to get his vocal tracks. But by God, it worked, and we finally got to hear that iconic voice for the first time in nearly a decade.
Do you want to know why Adam is so cool?
Ooh, I know. It's because he always answers his phone.
I think he's handsome.
Oh, it's definitely because he will not make you sign papers you do not understand.
Sure, it wasn't much, but I'll take anything at this point. As you might have noticed, that was Aaron voicing Fats in that clip, and much like Fats, the final performance of Duke as Duke would come in the 2021 Mystery Science Theater 3000 show tape.
Just repeat to yourself, it's just a show. I should really just relax.
In the following years, Duke Chipetta has decided that he no longer wishes to voice the character of Duke LaRue, and that is absolutely a decision he is allowed to make. He gave his all to this character for decades and provided us with so much entertainment, so all I can say is thank you for your service. So once again, so close to the loss of the iconic Burt Sal Wilson, the Rockafire Explosion was left with yet another character with no voice. And like I said, Duke's voice was so iconic that it was going to be extremely difficult to find a worthy successor, and equally as difficult to get the fan base to accept the new voice actor. Enter Brandon Shepard, longtime Rockafire Explosion fan and talented musician in his own right. While we had heard Brandon's singing voice back when he was announced as Duke's new voice actor, we had never really heard him sing as Duke until the Volo show. And I think my past videos on this channel prove that I am more than open to changing voice actors for characters over time, so I was never going to be one to say, that's not my Duke. I welcome Brandon with open arms. But I knew that there were going to be a lot of naysayers that he would have to win over. And at the Volo concert, the very first song he sang as Duke was his most iconic song, Heartaches. I feel like this was such a make or break moment because this song comes out hard and fast with a vocal riff that is ingrained in every Rockafire Explosion fan's head.
Here we go again.
So I was just saying to myself, all he has to do is nail Heartaches. And boy, did he.
We'll see. Starts like this. Here we go again.
I think it was in that moment that everyone watching breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that the character of Duke LaRue was in more than capable hands. I actually asked Brandon what it was like taking over such an iconic character and how he dealt with the idea that the fan base might not accept his rendition.
Duke is such a legendary character, and to be able to be a part of the history of everything, it's just a blessing. My challenge was when I was first doing this, because Aaron was wanting a little bit more of an Elvis-y type of vibe. We liked it, he liked it, which that's the reason I got the role. After I became Duke, he heard a little bit more of my natural voice. So now it's kind of like a mixture of both. I went really hard into that Elvis sound.
Well, you may think I'm foolish for the foolish things I do.
And then like something like Little Old Lady from Pasadena, I brought it back just a hair, just so it blended in with the song. Every time a character is recast, there's always backlash. I didn't want to say I didn't care, because I mean, of course I do care. The fans, you know, they're fans like I am. And when I first became Duke, I didn't like it. I was like, this ain't Duke. And of course you got comments like, this guy, he does not sound like Duke, or I get to a better Duke than that. But then there's way more people on there that started to come on. It's like, hey, I think this dude's going to be great. People that were seeing the potential. And then the more I got adjusted to hearing my voice through Duke, it just took just took some time. And it's actually like the way Sully's video is about Matt Vogel. People have just not heard Matt Vogel's Kermit enough. And I'm gonna tell you, Matt Vogel is a good Kermit.
Huge thanks to Brandon for that video. Be sure to go check out his YouTube channel. Tell him I sent you. We now find ourselves over on stage left, which houses the mascot of Showbiz Pizza Place. The mascot that may have done questionable things to the birthday boy. The man, the bear, the legend, Billy Bob Broccoli. Billy Bob was the resident country bear of the Rockfire explosion. A country bear, not that country bear, because God forbid Disney copyright strike this video. You could find Billy Bob manning the pumps over at Smitty's Super Service Station, providing all customers with their signature Goofy Gas gasoline. Because what better place to sell gasoline than in a children's pizza parlor?
Things gets kinda quiet here at Smitty's Super Service Station sometimes. What with the gas situation the way it is and all, we've had to stop selling gasoline altogether. Once it got past 25 cents a gallon, I didn't have no more friends what could afford it nohow.
Billy Bob is a character that dates back all the way to 1979 when an earlier incarnation of the character, then named Billy Wilbur, appeared in another creative engineering show called The Hard Luck Bears. Again, I don't really want to dive too deep into this because I truly believe that this show deserves its own video, much like the Wolfpack 5. But with a new name and a fresh set of striped overalls, Billy Bob took the world by storm, becoming the entire face of the Showbiz Pizza Place brand. Which makes it even wilder that Showbiz decided to trash the entire Rockfire explosion since they had built such a strong brand identity, but that's an entirely different story. Billy Bob, like almost every other character at one point in time, was voiced by Aaron Fector, bringing his own southern charm to the bear. And like all the rest of his characters, Aaron still provides the voice of Billy Bob to this day, with the character never changing hands ever since he debuted. Although, Aaron did make a very interesting announcement at the Volo show in June. Billy Bob will be voiced by a new face named Matt Cam, who goes by the stage name Telly. But don't you worry, Aaron clarified that the plan is only to have Telly take over the character once Aaron is physically no longer able to perform or is no longer with us. So we still have plenty of time to enjoy and cherish Aaron's performance as Billy Bob, but based on what we saw at the Volo show, I am confident that Billy Bob is in great hands with Telly. And last but not least, what's the word? Looney Bird. Everyone's favorite alcoholic bird could be found guzzling an unhealthy amount of Goofy Gas submerged in his blue oil drum next to his friend Billy Bob. And I have always had a soft spot in my heart for Looney Bird. I mean, how can you not be charmed by his silky smooth voice? Much like the duo that is Rolf and Earl over on stage right, Aaron Fector provides the voice of the stage left duo by lending his voice to both Billy Bob and Looney Bird. Also, this has zero relevance to the narrative I'm telling here and might get this video copyright claimed, but I just have to show off this video of Looney Bird singing Forget You by CeeLo Green.
If I was richer, I'd still be with her.
We truly don't deserve you, Looney Bird. Now, it was never outright said whether Telly would also be taking over the role of Looney Bird once he assumed the role of Billy Bob, but based on a single line he spoke as Looney Bird at the Volo show, I don't think we have to worry about the fate of our favorite bird.
Well, wait a minute. You know what that car needs? What's that, Billy Bob?
Perfect, no notes. And there you have it, a complete history on all of the voice actors behind the Rockfire explosion. The video's over now, you can go home. Because if there's one thing I know about corporate America, it's that corporations respect artistic integrity and would never do anything to desecrate a beloved character. Right? Okay, so I guess I might have left out an important part of this story. That is that there is an entire alternate lineup of Rockfire Explosion voice actors that we have not talked about yet today. So I guess now is as good a time as ever to introduce you to the concept of corporate show tapes. When Showbiz Pizza Place and Pizza Time Theater merged in 1985, it wasn't very long before the corporate heads at the newly formed Showbiz Pizza Time Incorporated started experimenting with creating content in-house. In other words, they weren't interested in paying creative engineering to write and perform more show tapes for them, and so they were going to go the much cheaper route of hiring sound-alike voice actors and writing their own material. And the outcome is just about as you would expect it to be. Everything that made a character unique was essentially boiled down and flanderized to the point that the character before you was just a husk of what they were when they were created. Showbiz hoped that people wouldn't notice, and to be quite honest, the average family member probably didn't. As of 2026, the information we have about the character's voice actors is very sparse, so get on your tinfoil hats because we're about to enter the speculation zone. No, but seriously, a lot of this information is unconfirmed, so just know that while I'm trying to do my best to summarize the details, there is a lot of conflicting information and very little documentation from this era. I was, however, able to get into contact with then Director of Entertainment Paul Linden, who was able to clarify a few points. Paul Linden worked on the very first in-house Rockfire Explosion show tape, working alongside Morgan Cavett of Steppenwolf to record this show tape at Blue Dolphin Studios in Los Angeles, California. Morgan Cavett unfortunately passed away in 2004, so we have no surviving documentation about his time working with Showbiz Pizza. And then Gene Ballard of Creative Presentations actually produced the music for at least the corporate Statue of Liberty show tape, along with the character retrofit itself. Now, with that little bit of information out of the way, let's start with what we do know. Welcome back to Showbiz Pizza Place, where we find ourselves back on stage right just as we were 25 minutes ago. According to Paul Linden, both Rolf and Earl were both voiced by then Showbiz Pizza Time programmer Joe Conti, which means Joe Conti is the man behind the iconic show tape where Rolf and Earl narrate their own removal during concept unification, which, though incredibly morbid, is a very interesting piece of history. His name comes up in some internal documents showing that he was a Cyberamics programmer at one time, which truly means that Showbiz Pizza took someone they already had on the payroll and made them record voice lines for likely no additional pay. Which, yeah, that is cheaper, I'll give him that much. I guess when it comes down to it, his Rolf de Wolf impression isn't terrible, and it's arguably probably one of the better of the bunch, which isn't saying much because the whole recasting was just shamelessly ripping off the characters that Creative Engineering established. So here is Aaron Fechter's Rolf and Earl compared with Joe Conti's rendition.
Oh yeah, this cute little guy here is Earl Schmerl.
Yeah, and this stupid-looking guy here is Ralph the Wolf.
Work is good for you, little Earl.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it builds character. Take me, for instance.
You're a character, all right.
Unfortunately, Paul Linden did reveal to me that shortly after Joe Conti left the company to pursue an acting career, he tragically took his own life, which is devastating that he isn't around to witness the renaissance of animatronics in our modern day and see how much people appreciate both his programming and his voice acting in all of these shows. But I'm so glad that despite Joe Conti no longer being with us, his work continues to live on. Now, Billy Bob Broccoli is an interesting case because this character had two different voice actors during this corporate takeover era of the Rockfire Explosion. By all accounts, the person to voice Billy Bob in the 1986 History of Rock and Roll demo was none other than Bob West. You might know him from his work at Chuck E. Cheese as both Jasper T. Jowls and Pasquale P. Pieplate, or possibly from your childhood as the voice of Barney the Dinosaur, which I guess means that Barney is canonically part of the Rockfire Explosion, but I digress. Now, after the History of Rock and Roll demo, accounts of his involvement vary. Some claim that he only worked on that singular demo, while others claim he voiced Billy Bob for the entire corporate era. I reached out to Bob West, and he very kindly confirmed that he did in fact only voice Billy Bob on the History of Rock and Roll demo tape before the character was passed on to a different voice actor. Now, who is that mysterious second voice actor? Unfortunately, nobody knows at this point. But we do at least have plenty of footage to hear what his rendition of Billy Bob sounded like.
Well, great. Here, let's call the guys out here and we'll show you how it's done. Hey, come on, Fats, Mitzi, Beach Bear, Duke. Let's play the name game.
Hey, Duke, you're smart and don't know it. Okay, I'll give it away. What goes round and around and around?
Gollies, Looney Bird, I'm so proud to be part of this tribute to America's working men and women.
Yeah! And you know what? I'll give credit where credit's due. They at least sounded closer to Billy Bob than when they had random employees voice him for birthday parties.
You guys have very happy birthdays, and I'm gonna get Birthday Bird and the rest of Fats in the game. I'll be back.
Now, that is all the information I was able to independently verify, so unfortunately, now we're gonna have to do some speculating. On center stage, for simplicity's sake, we'll start at Duke LaRue and work our way across. According to most sources, during this era, Duke LaRue was voiced by performer Gene Wygant. Now, Gene's rendition of Duke, much like most of the other voice actors in this era, comes across rather forced, but this one is much more noticeable because Showbiz Pizza really tried to replicate the more natural stutter that the original Duke LaRue had. So they made him him stutter literally every time he spoke, which comes across so unnaturally. Here is Duke LaRue performed by Duke Geppetto versus Gene Wygant side by side.
That's right, Fats. I'm going to sing a song by,
what you gonna sing, Duke? Go on, go ahead, spit it
I'm
out.
going to sing a medley song.
Yeah, it's really.
Spit it out, boy.
Real, you know?
And assuming we're speaking of the same Gene Wygant, he went on to have a very successful career on stage and screen, starring in many famous Broadway shows such as Wicked or Come From Away. So I guess he was destined for more than a corporate voice acting gig. Fats Geronimo possibly stands out as one of the most jarring voice changes in my opinion. Sources seem to point to someone named Mark Brink voicing Fats during this era, but once again, it's very convoluted and confusing because some characters had two voice actors. But nevertheless, assuming Mark Brink is behind the voice during most of these corporate show tapes, I think you'll notice a difference.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present the keyboard of the future, the Toon Machine.
It's called the Magical Musical Time Machine. And if you'll allow me, I'll tell you how it works.
Wait, hold up, time machine? I will not stand for this Toon Machine erasure. Okay, to be fair, it seems like the Time Machine show tape actually came before the Toon Machine show tape, but never mind. It really seems like nobody was ever going to be able to mimic that deep, iconic voice that Burt Wilson gave Fats, so anyone doing their best impression of it just didn't live up to our character's expectations. Mitzi Mozzarella is another character who had two different voice actors during this time period, one for the History of Rock and Roll demo and one for the rest of the corporate show tapes. It's claimed that in the 1986 demo, Mitzi was voiced by Carlisa Burleson, who would later go on to lend her voice to Helen Henney for many years, which seems to check out knowing now that Chuck E. Cheese staple Bob West also helped out on this demo. And for whatever reason, Carlisa was then replaced by Lorraine Denham for the rest of the corporate show tapes. But here are Shalisa, Carlisa, and Lorraine's portrayals of Mitzi back to back to back. Close your eyes and see if you can hear the difference.
Oh, and don't forget about all the neat girl groups. You know, my boyfriend's back. Da 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 da.
Yo, Mitzi.
The best tip I got all week was not to play cards with anyone whose first name is a city.
Last but certainly not least, what's the word? Looney Bird. According to all sources I found, Looney Bird was voiced by then Executive Vice President and Creative Director of Creative Presentations, Inc., Mr. Frank Goggin. Creative Presentations worked very closely with Showbiz Pizza during this era, providing a lot of the Rockfire retrofits, so it seems incredibly likely that they would work with someone within Creative Presentations and hire in-house like they did with Joe Conti. And of course, here's what the corporate Looney Bird sounded like compared to Aaron Fector.
Now I gotta go off and figure out some super devo procedure to remember people's names.
Oh, hey, Billy Bob. Look at Mitzi. She's asleep on her feet.
Now you might notice that I skipped over Beach Bear, and that's because there is no information regarding who voiced Beach Bear during this corporate era. But based on Showbiz Pizza consistently casting people they already had on their payroll to do these voices, I can only hope that they kept the tradition of Beach Bear alive by giving the role to a very talented audio engineer.
How about 19 apathetic old men with a marked propensity toward procrastination and sloth?
Well, it sounds like you're buying into this work thing pretty heavy. Well, man, it's like they're always after you to keep your shoulder to the wheel.
Yeah?
And that truly does mark the end of the history of animatronic voice actors. For the Rockafire explosion, at least. There are so many other voices and characters that would come post-concept unification, but that will have to wait until part 2. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and big thanks to Rocket Money for sponsoring this video. You can go sign up for free over at rocketmoney.com/Sully. And for members, I have uploaded a video that I made exclusively for the 6th annual Billy Bob's Wonderland convention in West Virginia. It covers a lot of the same stuff we talked about in this video, which may leave you wondering, why would I pay to see that? I don't know. Memberships start at 99 cents a month, and they sincerely help me continue to create content for you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, be kind to one another, stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace!
Hello everyone, this is Sully.
Hi everyone, welcome to the incident at Galley House. This is from the devs who did The Rootries Are Dead. And it's getting high praise. So it should be good. Oh, is that my bag? Big bag. All right. Yes, okay. Let's look at the newspaper first. That caught my eye immediately. Bodies found at the Galley House. Last Sunday, an abandoned country house was found to contain the bodies of multiple deceased men and women. Early arrivals at the scene described the bloodied body of a man found face down on the front steps. More bodies were reportedly discovered inside. All had died recently. Only one victim has been named by police, local tradesman John Hobbs. His ex-wife and son have been approached for comment, but claim to be unaware of any reason why Mr. Hobbs would have wished to visit the house. The bodies were discovered by a small group of concerned locals that had decided to venture to the house on the Sunday morning. What brought them there that day remains unclear. Details of their accounts include burnt photographs in a fireplace, a broken doll, and shattered stained glass windows. It is claimed that at least one of the victims has been shot, and one had likely fallen to his death. However, the police have so far shown a reluctance to release further details to the public. No cause of death has been confirmed, and no suspect or motives have been put forward. The nature of this incident and the question of why it occurred in a house previously thought to be long empty remain a mystery. 1936. Okay. What really happened? I don't think I can turn the page or anything. Can I grab those cables? Okay, so when I can click on something, text appears at the bottom. I think. Open door. Look in window. So this is
Can't
actually...
see anyone inside.
Can't see anyone inside. This is sort of like a remake, like Rootries was a remake of a game called Type Help. So it used to be a text-based game, I think.
Oh, it's locked.
Lock it. Oh, no, it's not. Ominous. Okay. Look at machine. New evidence discovered. Page 1. Evidence 4. Okay. To-do list. Remember. Positive and position antennas. Quail Lane entrance living room. Use generator to the right of the machine. Insert access card. Automatically recover data from previous user. And locations. There's 3 codes. Start with antennas. QUEN, etc. I don't think I can turn the page. Manual. This draft is for internal purposes only. Use of the machine outside of company premises is strictly prohibited. All users of the machine must be accompanied by an authorized machine supervisor. Well, I don't see one. Dulski and Morse cannot accept any liability whatsoever for any physical or psychological harm caused by unsupervised use of the machine. You'll be fine. Disclaimer. Although the reconstructed audio of events is generally accurate, Dulski and Morse cannot be held liable for the accuracy of any visualizations of events, and it is not responsible for any actions taken as a result of false conclusions. This product is not intended as a guaranteed method of event reconstruction. It is recommended to be used in conjunction with more traditional methods, such as forensic analysis and eyewitness accounts, to help build a complete picture of events. Still scanning. So I think this is a time machine. The machine is not to be operated by any user with a previous history of psychosis or by any user who could be judged as being susceptible to false beliefs or fantasies. Use of the machine must be terminated upon any signs or of audio or visual hallucinations outside of direct machine operation. And then it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 111, 167, 10. So that's the 1, 2, 3, 4 from here, I think. Interesting. Okay, so this grid is the machine. There's the thing. Oh, the cursor changes when I... Oh, you can't see it, but you can just see it there. Like the cursor changes. Oh, I don't have an ID card, so without that and low power. So there's not much we're gonna do here at the moment. And this is my... Wait. My notebook. So I can... And there's a hint page. Okay. If I'm feeling stuck, I can brainstorm a hint to push myself in the right direction. I have... Maybe that means I should do this. Okay, close that. Room. Oh, so if I click that home button, we zoom out. Low power. Can we turn this on? Okay. So it'll only work for a little bit at a time. Access card creation. Hold hand on display as hard as possible. Oh, concentrate. State your name.
Beckon.
Say your name clearly. 70. Oh, taking my picture. New evidence discovered. Access card. Yeah, that goes in there. Okay. Spectral OS. Timeline, people, locations. Oh my god. Oh, that's my picture. Nice. Okay, so let's insert that. Oh yeah, use generator. Insert access card. I can do that. Ah, I did it. Wow. Now calibration though. Automatically recovers data from previous user. How do we calibrate? Oh, that was clunky. Clunky boy. So can I like open my notes at the same time? Yeah. Okay. QU 111. Oh, that's the title, isn't it? Can I Control X, Control V? I can. Oh, is it all gray actually? Calibration? Question mark? Oh, wait, why is that gray then? Weird. Okay, I don't know. 1, 6, 7, 10. Oh, I fucked up. And then number 3 is LI. 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. The fourth thing is 5T. Oh, oops. Okay. Let's keep an eye on that. Close notebook F1. Oh, F1? Okay. Evidence 4. I see. People need to be calibrated. It says, oh, people. Maybe I do that. Calibrate. Automatic. Complete. Oh my god, 11 people. Ability to rename people has been enabled. To use manual calibration to add more people to the machine. Okay. So, is that gonna get tacked up? Yes. Locations. At least 3 codes. Start with antennas. QU, EN, etc. So 4? How do I open my notes? F1. That's what I pressed. Yeah, QU, EN, LI, 5T. Or ST. Oh, maybe it's ST. Probably. At least 3 codes. Start with antennas. Okay, let's look for some antennas. Can I look around the... Oh, these! Can I move around the room? Can I look at a map? Input initials. Okay. So let's try QU. Ah, Quail Lane. Okay. Oh. EN. Let's try that. Entryway? Entrance, yeah. Okay. And then we had LI, living room. Cool. Oh, it's working. All right. At least 3 codes, yeah. Well, hold on. ST, let's try it. Haha, the study. Okay, cool. So my notes were correct. We had 4 codes so far. I don't know what this means. Okay. So I set it to a location. Oh, okay. We're building code. 01 QU 1 and 11. Go. Oh, person 1 and 11 were at Quail Lane. Oh, cool. It's raining. Car engine revs. Tires spin in the mud.
Blast! The damn thing's stuck. Can you push harder?
Car engine revs. Tires spin in the mud.
It just won't. We're not moving, sir. And I can't help it. Blast the damn thing. Blast this weather. We'll come back tomorrow, sir. When it's light outside. What a pity. You work for Rupert, do you?
For as long as I can remember, sir.
Well, I hope he knows what a foul situation.
I knew this. You can pause during cutscenes. I saw that in the settings. Okay, so person 11 works for Rupert. And this is also very nice. Oh my god. Okay, cool. So you work for Rupert, do you? For as long as I can remember, person 11. Okay.
He's put me in.
You'll follow me now, won't you, sir? The house is not far from here. Just mind your step.
Thanks. Oh, bloody devil. Shouldn't have worn these shoes.
I must ask, sir, are you a friend of the galleys?
Never heard of them. Do you know why I've been invited here?
I can't say I do, sir. But we do have a number of other guests with us this evening. I'm sure it will be a night to remember.
Oh. Hold on. He said something after. I hope he knows what a foul situation he's put me in. Rupert Galley, maybe? Galley owns the house. All right, let's leave it at that.
It's strange. I received an invitation earlier this week. I have no idea who from, but for whatever reason, I decided to come anyway. It's only just dawning on me how mad of an idea this actually is.
Oh, not mad at all, sir. It's a privilege to be a guest at Galley House. And if there's anything you need, sir, let me know.
Okay.
Is this it, then?
Right you are, sir. At the top of those steps is the entrance to the house. Please knock, and Mr. Galley should answer the door.
Okay. Is that the butler? Someone uses a heavy knocker. Huh. Oh, okay, nice. So once the scene plays out, I still get the review everything. Person 1 leaves. Person 11 leaves. Okay. Cool. Nice. Okay. Shall we try another situation then? Because I have multiple notes, don't I? We can also try this one. Oh, where's this from? What? So that was 4? Yes. Dear John. Oh, we got the invitation now. Rupert Galley. Yes, that's what I wrote down, right? Yeah. Dear John. Oh, wait. Hold on. Okay. Person 1 is John. Okay. Was invited. I'm terribly sorry to hear about you and Claire. Oh, Claire. Claire is wife. I've always thought you two seemed perfect for each other, but I've never been a very good judge of these things. Oh, they're not together anymore. Why don't you come down to Galley House this Saturday evening? I'm having a small gathering for my birthday. Oh, and you'd be more than welcome to stay the night with us. I could introduce you to my family. None of us have your talent, of course, but I have recently acquired something to keep you interested if you decide to come. It's not perfect, but sometimes when you close your eyes, it's like someone else is in the house. I'll make sure to have it running by the time you arrive. Don't be fooled. There are no ghosts in Galley House. All right, so Claire is an ex. Birthday. Owns the house. Birthday on Saturday. We don't know what year. Unless the newspaper article has a year, but don't know if that's the same year. All right. Nice. Let's go to number 2, which is EN. So entrance, yes. And 1, 6, 7, and 10 were there. Let's have a look. This is very cool so far. It's raining. I can hear that. A heavy door opens.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is Mr. Galley there?
He's somewhere. Oh, I feel sick.
Excuse me?
Just wait here. I need... Oh, God. Where's Thornton?
Hold on. Okay. Person 10 is a woman, possibly pregnant, because she's nauseous. Mentions Thornton.
Hello? What do you want?
Hello. I'm looking for Mr. Galley.
That would be me.
Fantastic. I'm so sorry. My car got stuck.
Wait, you got invited by Mr. Galley, but you don't recognize him? That is weird. Unless it's... It could be a cousin, and then he would also be Mr. Galley, just not the owner of the house.
In the mud just down on Quail Lane, so I'm a bit later than...
You haven't told me why you're here.
Why I'm here? I have... You sent me an invitation. I got it with me.
You've got the wrong person. I've never seen you before in my life.
I swear, you said you had something to show
Eddie,
me.
what's the matter? Who's this?
Who's person 7? We haven't seen... Okay. Is another woman.
I'm in the middle of talking to him, Vic.
Sorry, is there a Rupert Galley here? The invitation said... Bloody devil. Where did that come from?
Ignore it. I've lived in Galley House all my life, and I've never heard of a Rupert Galley. So I'm afraid you've got the wrong place. Goodbye.
Wait,
oh my
please.
God.
Eddie, look at the weather out there.
Huh. Doesn't know a Rupert. Interesting.
You can't let him out in that.
Vic, we've enough guests as it is.
But I'm sure we could accommodate one more, couldn't we? Come inside, please, before your toes fall off.
Oh, thank you so much. That's very kind.
Everyone else is just through there in the living room. I'm sure someone here will know what's going on.
Okay.
Oh, it looks like the doll broke in the fall.
Oh,
Doll?
I'm so sorry, Eddie.
Eddie. Edward.
Please, try and calm your sister down, Vic, or she'll end up...
Vic. Oh, oops. Pressed escape.
killing someone.
So Vic threw a doll out the window, maybe? All right. Interesting. Now let's listen to the third one. Oh, the third one has tons of people. Okay, living room. Uh, 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
There you are. Is Eve with you?
Eve. Person 5. Okay, person 5 sounds like an elderly lady. Looking for Eve.
No. We brought someone else, though.
Hello? I'm dreadfully sorry. Is there somewhere to hang my coat?
Who is this man?
Apparently, his car got stuck in the mud on Quail Lane. I told him he could stay here while the weather improves.
Is everything all right?
It's fine. I'll tell you later.
He's brought a bottle of champagne with him.
Well, I should hope you weren't counting on our hospitality.
Well, actually, my name's John Hobbs.
John Hobbs, there you are. Okay, person 1 is John Hobbs. Okay.
I actually received an invitation to come here from a man called Rupert Galley. Has anyone heard of him?
I swear Never mind.
No one lives here by that name, I'm afraid.
Oh, then I'm ever so sorry. There's evidently been some sort of mistake.
Don't worry about it. You're welcome to stay here as long as you need. Let me introduce you. This is Victoria, Helen, Tony, Eddie.
All right, here we go. So we're looking at, hold on.
And
7, 8, 4, 9. So 7 was Victoria, yeah. And then we have Helen, Tony, Eddie, and Damien. Okay, so 8, 4, and 9. Okay.
Damien. We're having a small gathering here this evening.
So she's talking about number 6 as well. Eddie, yeah. Oh yeah, and herself, of course. The elderly lady. But she says, this is Victoria, Helen, Tony, Eddie, and Damien. So there's only one more woman. Let's see who speaks.
Did you have anything planned, Martha? Because we really shouldn't start until my daughter arrives.
I don't think she'll be coming anytime soon.
Martha, that must be this lady.
Excuse me?
Does anyone know where Annie is?
Okay, 9 was a woman just now, so I'm gonna assume she's Helen.
She said she didn't want to come. I don't see why we all need to be here anyway.
I beg your pardon? Who are you?
Actually, Martha, I might need to stay the night while the weather improves, if you wouldn't mind.
At least I was invited here.
I I suppose we could accommodate one more. I'll show you to the spare bed in the study, Mr. Hobbs. And you best come with us too, Damien. We could do with a strong man to help set things up.
Of course, Martha.
8, Damien. So that makes 4, Tony. Okay.
Thank you. That sounds perfect.
Eddie, could you follow me to the billiard room, please? I'd like a private word.
Okay. Wait. I can do something with that. Her wanting to go to the billiard room? What is that? New evidence. Note from scanner. These are a collection of old case notes all taken from that same weekend. Some of them are from Galley House, but some are from an unrelated inheritance dispute case that happened around the same time. The root trees? Not sure which is which. Oh my god, that's a lot. Adder, found walking in nearby village. Deep cut on left arm, holding a bottle of absinthe. Badger, death by gunshot, found near a handwritten list of first names. Cod found outside wearing formal livery, traces of vegetables under fingernails. So that's the butler, probably. Deer, wheelchair user. Is this 11? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 code names. Wheelchair user found near a broken teacup. Photo nearby shows 2 young girls. Red wine stain on dress, wearing wedding ring. Long-term injury on left leg, in possession of an empty film canister and the key to a piano. High blood alcohol level, traces of cocoa drink around mouth. Traces of ash on clothing, strong smell of perfume, evidence of a missing ring. Muddy shoes, in possession of car keys and an invitation to Galley House. Injuries indicate a long fall. Okay, so this is our Hobbs guy. How do I link these? Lark. Mole found in bed, red marks around neck, in possession of a will, which mentions only child was a daughter. Otter, finger stained with tobacco, in possession of a pocket watch and an army recruitment leaflet. Pike, found with person of interest, Raven, strong build, in possession of keys to a black car. Raven, found with person of interest, Pike, early stages of pregnancy, faint smell of lavender. Maybe the girl that was sick? Swallow, had been shot 3 times, found with a bloody knife and a pair of leather gloves. Toad, in possession of a large metal key and a folded sketch of a family of 5. Weasel, burn mark on right hand, high blood alcohol level, ring found in pocket, holding a bracelet. And a prototype. Ah. Okay. It said I could rename people here. So let's do John Hobbs. Select avatar. Wait. Muddy shoes in possession. Yeah, I think that's him. A long fall. Okay. He is John Hobbs. Nice, and then he gets filled into the scenery. Cool. Nice, and that stays. That's awesome. Okay. So this feels very Root Trees, doesn't it? We have to like identify people. What else do I have? Person 11 is the butler. But we don't have his name. Then, let's see. Rupert Galley is, oh no, that's the fake person. Eddie Galley is 6. Do we have a picture? I don't think we have any identifying features yet. Person 5, Martha. Victoria 7. I hope this is okay. Yeah. Okay, so remembers the first name. I haven't filled in the last name yet. That's nice. Damien, 8. For Tony. Let's see, have I filled in everyone now? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9. Helen. So we don't know who 10 is, although I think that's the pregnant lady. But we're not, that's just guesswork at the moment. There you are, is Eve with you? We haven't had an Eve yet. This is so cool. Okay, no 2, no 3. We don't have 4, but we have 5, which is Martha. 6, Eddie. 7, Victoria. 8, Damien. 9, Helen. No, 10 is the woman who mentions Thornton. Okay. And then we have these locations. So I can click into scenes. That's also really handy. And look at the conversation again. The billiard room. Should we try BI? Haha. Billiard room. Okay, cool. Let's go back. What are my notes? My notes have an ST. The study. And there were 3 people there, but we don't know who. Let me go back. What did she say about Helen and Eddie? Could you follow me to the billiard room, please? I'd like a private word. Okay, Helen and Eddie. So I need 6 and 9. Helen, Eddie, 6, 9. Should we call it 5? Let's try it. Okay, so it's not number 5. I think the number is like the chronological order. So something must have happened in between that. It could also be that someone interrupted them or someone was eavesdropping. So maybe we're missing a person. Okay. 4 is the study, but we have no idea who was in there. Yeah, so this is the timeline. So the number is a time code, yeah. Attach icons to time codes to keep track of events. Oh. So can I add, like, is there a little car icon? Or just the rain outside? 2 is them at the front of the house. At the door. And then 3 is the discussion in the living room.
Earlier this year, when I visited Japan, I purchased some ice cream clay, and I've been dying to use it ever since. So today, let's finally do just that by designing and creating an ice cream sundae girl sculpture. Up until now, all of my sculptures have been printed using opaque filament, but this time around, I want to try something new. So, to fully show off the colours and textures of this fake ice cream, I'm going to make the head of today's character a translucent sundae glass. Then, after filling the glass with our ice cream clay and painting her face onto the front, we could even create a variety of tasty toppings like sprinkles, cream, and wafers. I really enjoy making fake sweets and desserts, so this design should be incredibly fun fun to make. But before we can assemble this fancy ice cream sundae, we need to create the glass. So let's jump into Nomad Sculpt and get 3D modeling. As usual, I'm starting things off by forming a head shape from a sphere and carving away 2 eye sockets. Then, after using the tube tool to add some eyelids and forming a basic nose, mouth and ears, we can smooth everything down, ready for the finer details. Also, aside from Nomad Sculpt's crease tool, my secret weapon for sculpting stylized lips is the mask tool and the flatten tool. Masking off the top lip, inverting it, and then flattening the surface really helps to mimic real human lip anatomy and avoid that swollen lip filler look. Now that our ice cream sundae girl's face is mostly complete, let's turn it into a vessel. To do this, I'm going to blend a cylinder onto the head before pushing the ruffle edge into shape using multiple mirror tools. Using multiple mirrors like this automatically repeats my movements across the entire glass, in turn making the pattern perfectly even. You do have to be careful though, as it can go wrong and make your sculpture look a bit confused. Anyway, this ruffled edge looks good to me, so we can go ahead and add the finer details like the eyeliner, teeth and irises before hollowing out the center. To evenly hollow this glass out, I'm cloning the entire thing, decimating it to remove most of the details, reducing its size and subtracting it from my original model. Then, once the back has been trimmed away, this ice cream sundae girl's head is ready to be printed, but I have a dilemma. Due to the constraints of my studio, I do not own a resin printer, which is kind of essential for printing a perfectly smooth and translucent object like this. So, to work smarter instead of harder, I'm going to get this clear head sculpture 3D printed in resin using PCBWay, who have very kindly sponsored this video. Aside from specializing in PCB prototyping, assembly and low volume production, PCBWay is a professional manufacturing service that also offers custom CNC machining, injection molding and 3D printing. After uploading my 3D model to their website, PCBWay printed, processed and shipped my sculpture directly to my door, finally making projects like this one possible. And I must say, the smoothness and quality of their resin 3D printing is phenomenal. It would be totally impossible for me to replicate this clarity using my filament printer. Also, just in case I make a mistake during the crafting process, I've ordered 2 different versions, one with a back panel and one without. So if you require custom 3D printing, prototyping or production, PCBWay is a great, reliable solution to your needs. Thank you so much to PCBWay for sponsoring today's video. To make our ice cream sundae girl sculpture, I've decided to use the face that has the wall mount hole in the back. But before we can fill it with ice cream, we need to paint a white base layer onto the eyes and the lips. Distinguishing these facial features is a bit tricky though, thanks to the heavy surface reflections, so I'm going to stuff it with some dark fabric to create a background to work on top of. Now, we can build up the eyes and lips using this 2 thin coats white model paint, which will take a few passes since the surface of this face is incredibly smooth and shiny. A few hours later, these facial feature base layers have fully dried, allowing us to see their placements much better. So let's place our sculpture onto a raised mount and fill this glass. As you can see within my ice cream sundae girl character illustration, each flavor forms a different facial detail. Firstly, these blobs of strawberry ice cream resemble patches of blush. Next, this chocolate ice cream at the top resembles some hair. And last but not least, the vanilla ice cream fills the gaps, kind of like a skin tone. To accurately recreate this pattern within this clear head, I'm going to press each color into place from the inside, taking care to layer the flavors. So let's start with the strawberry blush, and I must say, I was not expecting this texture. For some reason, I thought this clay would be similar to this foam bead type, but it's so much fluffier and softer. Plus, it might be hard to see in the video, but this strawberry one even has flecks of pink running throughout it. I honestly don't think I'll have to do much to make this ice cream clay look real, so I'm just going to drop it into place and use my fingers to spread it across the surface. strawberry blush has been squished into place, I'm going to open the vanilla ice cream clay and fill out the chin. And whilst I'm pressing this clay into the head, I'm trying to be conscious of the amount I'm using, as I only have one of each flavour, so I need to ration it the best I can. At this stage, a great way to save clay is by covering the visible inner surface only, instead of filling the entire head. If I filled this entire head, 90% of the clay wouldn't be seen, and in turn wasted. And I can't really just fly back to Japan to get some more. Okay, these initial vanilla sections are looking nice and even, so let's add the upper left strawberry section. And if you're wondering, the trick to mimicking the blobby unblended pattern from my original design is layers. If I need to make a round shape, I'll create that first before layering the adjacent clay behind it. It's a very similar technique to painting animation cells or glass art. Okay, this ice cream sundae girl's face is coming together very nicely, so let's break out the chocolate clay and form her hair. This is super easy, I'm just using the same shape and fill method as before. Also, if you're wondering if this clay has a smell, thankfully it doesn't. Now, I don't mind sweet smells, but constantly smelling strawberry, vanilla and chocolate throughout this entire project would get a bit sickly. And there we have it. The internal ice cream pattern has come together very nicely, but as this thin layer of clay dries, it might lift from the walls. So I'm going to lock it in place using some cheap white foam clay. This won't be visible from the outside, it's just acting like a glue. Right, let's move on to this ice cream sundae girl scoops, but before we can make these balls, we need to form a surface for them to sit on. To do this, I'm going to trace and cut a semicircle shape out of this cardboard envelope and place it onto the edge of this thin clay layer. Then, after sticking it down with masking tape, we can use some more ice cream clay to extend the face pattern across this new surface. Doing this should complete the illusion and make our ice cream sundae girl's glass head look full, despite it being almost empty. Okay, we've now got a sturdy surface for our ice cream scoops to sit on, so let's get to work. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm trying my best to conserve this clay as I cannot get any more. Therefore, I'm going to pad out the middle of each scoop using tin foil. This is a trick that I usually use with polymer clay, as it also helps to reduce weight. After rolling out 3 balls of tin foil that fit within the glass, I'm covering them all in a thin layer of ice cream clay. Then, to even out their shapes and add some ice cream scoop texture, I'm pressing them into half of a gachapon ball. Kind of weird, I know, but this should create the smooth surface effect that you get from an ice cream scoop. And there we have it. Our ice cream scoops have been formed and they're looking incredibly tasty, so let's create a jagged base for each one to sit in. These bases should help to replicate the scoop indents seen on real servings of ice cream. Now, after filling in the void at the back with some more white foam clay to keep each scoop in place, the ice cream is looking perfectly imperfect, so let's get to work on the face, starting with her dark brown eyes. In my original design, I matched this ice cream sundae girl's eyes to the tone of the chocolate ice cream. So I'm going to do the same here by mixing up a matching shade of model paint. And as always, to keep the paint from drying out too quickly and clumping, I'm adding a few drops of slow dry fluid. This additive is a lifesaver when painting multiple thin layers in warm weather. layers later, we can now paint the eyeliner into place using black model paint. Normally, I use both a black acrylic marker and model paint for this, but because the edges of these shapes are a little hard to distinguish, I've decided to play it safe and stick to using a fine paintbrush. There is no room for mistakes when it comes to keeping this clear resin pristine. By the way, if you're enjoying this video so far, I challenge you to subscribe before this eyeliner has been painted on. We are getting so close to my 150,000 subscriber goal. Okay, looking good. I did have to paint the finer inner corner lines off camera as they required an incredibly steady hand and all of my focus, but I think they turned out okay. Next up, during my previous Seashell Gary video, I painted highlights into the eyes and I loved how cartoony they looked. So I'm going to do the same for this ice cream sundae girl. Honestly, I'm not too sure why I haven't been doing this all along. These eye highlights are a staple within my digital art. This relatively simple detail gives the eyes so much life. Moving on, let's paint this character's bright red lipstick. Initially, I used this deep red Vallejo model paint, but it went on a bit sheer and struggled to layer up nicely. So I eventually switched over to this dark arts paint in the shade Flare Red. By the way, shout out to Jeff and Holly from Transatlantis Games. They sent me a huge variety of dark arts and 2 thin coats model paints the other week, and they are fantastic. After leaving this red lipstick to fully dry, we can now move on to the ice cream toppings, which should be really fun, so let's get started. First up, I want to tackle the chocolate sauce seen on the front ice cream scoop, but I don't want to form it directly onto the surface in case it goes wrong. So to play it safe, I'm going to use hot glue to form some sauce onto another gachapon ball. My plan is to dispense some hot glue into a stripy sauce shape, peel it off and paint it brown, but adding glue directly to the capsule won't work as it cannot be peeled away. Trust me, I learned that the hard way. So I'm going to use a nitrile glove as a barrier. I have also waited for my hot glue gun to reach its hottest temperature to ensure that the glue drips and pools like real melted chocolate. Then, once cooled, we can remove the glove, carefully peel the hot glue away, and paint it brown. This 2 thin coats model paint in the shade Bootstrap Brown is the perfect milk chocolate shade straight out of the bottle, and it layered on perfectly. Now, after a few thin coats of gloss, our fake chocolate sauce can be glued into place using super glue. And although this was my first time using hot glue as a fake sauce, I have to say that I am very impressed with the results. The drips of glue running down the sides work so well and add so much realism. Right, let's move on to the chocolate sprinkles. To make these sprinkles as uniform as possible, I'm going to use a strand of 3D printer filament. Since this filament is already perfectly cylindrical, all we need to do is paint it using a warmer brown to match the tones of my design and cut it into smaller pieces. These fake sprinkles can then be glued into place, and I really love how this vanilla scoop looks now that we've added these details, but we're not done just yet as we still need to create the cherry, whipped cream, wafer and strawberry pieces. So let's start with the cherry. Just like the cherry seen on my cake sculpture, I'm going to start by forming a round cherry shape from some oven bake polymer clay. I like to use firm grey Super Sculpey for my polymer clay details as it holds its shape very well. Now, after rolling out 2 cherry-sized balls, adding slight center divots and forming a hole for the stem, we can bake these cherries in the oven, let them fully cool, and paint them using the same lipstick shade of red. Oh, and if you're wondering why I'm making 2 cherries when my design only needs 1, I've decided to make an extra just in case one of them goes wrong. Moving on, a few minutes later, this red paint has fully dried, so we can now form the cherry stem out of a strand of red 3D printing filament. Unlike the cherries from my cake sculpture, I want this stem to be thicker and more cartoony looking. So I'm bending it slightly, gluing it into the hole, and using some hot glue to bulk out the end. Now, all that's left to do is paint the stem red and apply a few layers of gloss. I could have used UV resin here, like I did during the cake project, but I decided not to today as it's incredibly messy and smelly. Oh, and whilst I've got this gloss out, let's also add a slight shine to the lipstick to nicely match the cherry before moving on to the whipped cream. To make the swirly whipped cream seen within my original Ice Cream Sundae Girl design, I'm going to use more of this white foam clay. Instead of being textured like the ice cream, this clay is perfectly smooth and uniform in colour, which should work great. So let's give it a go. Because I don't own a piping bag, I'm going to try replicating a piping tip texture by pressing a ruler into a long tube of clay and stretching it out. Then we can carefully swirl this textured clay into a whipped cream dollop shape and build it up over the ice cream scoops. Now, let's pinch and shape this point before pressing our fake cherry into place and stuffing the void underneath with more clay. I do anticipate the ridges and textures to slightly fall out as the clay dries and shrinks, but overall, I'm still thrilled with how this whipped cream and cherry looks on top of these scoops. Okay, our Ice Cream Sundae Girl sculpture is looking sufficiently sweet already, but is missing her tall, stripy wafer, so let's make it before she melts. Fun fact, when I purchased these ice cream clays from Daiso in Japan, I actually bought this cone one by mistake, which is even more impressive considering I filmed myself picking this one up and dropping it in my basket. Somehow I genuinely thought that I was buying this mint flavour one, but looking back now, I'll just put this down as a happy accident, as I now have the perfect clay to create this tubular wafer. To make this stripy sundae wafer, I'm starting things off by forming two flat shapes out of clay. Next, after cutting out some stripes and creating a pattern, I'm using a marker as a rolling pin to blend the colours together. Now, after trimming down the edges and rolling it super thin, we can texture the surface with a ball of foil and an old toothbrush. And this toothbrush texturing method is ingrained in my memory after binge watching polymer clay tutorials as a kid. I used to love the miniature food videos in particular, they were so satisfying. Speaking of which, after rolling up the wafer and allowing it to fully dry, I'm going to use another technique from these old videos and brush brown chalk pastels onto the surface. This step gives fake clay sweets and pastries a fantastic baked effect. Also, I had a major brain fart during this step and totally forgot that I had shaved the chalks onto the lid and then I closed it.
You stupid.
This is real-time footage of me realizing what I had just done. Anyway, this wafer is looking great and is ready to be glued into place, but it is far too long like this. So I'm going to trim it down to size and use a small piece of wire and chocolate clay to stabilize it. As you can see, we are rapidly approaching the end of today's project. All that's left to add are the lashes, freckles, and strawberry toppings. Inspired by my recent seashell Yaru sculpture, I want to give this Ice Cream Sundae Girl some super long curled eyelashes. But I feel like spiky lashes would look a bit out of place, so I'm going to use some cardstock to form blunt rectangular lashes instead. Then, once chopped into various sizes, these paper strips can be painted black using an acrylic marker, curled up, and secured using super glue. Next up, after using a wafer shade of model paint and a dotting tool to stamp a few freckles into place, I'm mixing up a light red shade of polymer clay to form the strawberry ice cream scoops toppings. Then, after baking them and allowing them to cool, we can attach these toppings to the strawberry scoop using super glue and see how this Ice Cream Sundae Girl sculpture has turned out. here she is. This ice cream sundae girl sculpture has come to life and she looks incredibly sweet. Firstly, although this is my first ever fully translucent sculpture, I am genuinely blown away with how well it all worked out. The clear resin perfectly mimics a sundae glass and really brings this entire design together. Also, this Japanese ice cream clay was the perfect material to use. I am very, very impressed with how accurate it looks to real ice cream, considering it took almost no effort. Overall, this was a very fun sculpture to make, so fun in fact that I would love to experiment with clear glass heads again. Perhaps this could turn into its own series. As always, a big thank you to PCBWay for sponsoring today's video and providing me with this clear resin 3D print. If you're looking to manufacture, prototype, or print parts for a project, I highly recommend checking them out. They are a fantastic service and will be linked within my description below. Before I go, I also want to give a shout out to my patrons. All of my SVV Studio members saw this project at various stages, and I had so much fun sharing it with them. So be sure to check out my Patreon using the link in the description if you would like to support my work further. Right, that's it from me. If you enjoyed today's project, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in my next video.
Are you ready, kids?
I've always had a love for SpongeBob. I mean, who doesn't?
A lot of people, actually.
But despite those naysayers, I've always been a goofy goober at heart, and Bikini Bottom is filled with wonderful architecture just waiting to be put into miniature form. So welcome back to Midnight Hobbies, where today we'll be making the Krusty Krab. And to get this build started, we're going to need some XPS foam. And this ain't that crumbly stuff from before, this is the good stuff. That is, if you ignore the markings it got from delivery. But this is where we need to start to make the curved walls of the Krusty Krab, which, surprisingly, I made a template for. And after successfully cutting it out with my hobby knife in one single try, there we go. I traced its outline onto the XPS, one for each wall. Also, I kept finding more damage to the edges of the foam, and I'm starting to suspect it might have been me, so let's just call it free weathering and move on with our day. And with the arches drawn, I went ahead and marked out the planks that support the edge of the building. And after my ruler decided to partake in some extreme sports, yeah, that's enough of you, I headed outside to unbox my brand new hot wire cutter. I made sure to wear a respirator to avoid inhaling any deadly fumes before getting the adjustments right to begin using the cutter. Make sure to hit the tripod. Good job. Now this thing is a real time saver and definitely helps when cutting curves. But I probably should have added a cardboard template or something to keep the cut smooth, as it burns through the foam much quicker than I was prepared for and left me with some wavy edges. I also accidentally sliced through one of the arches during a panic, but we can just glue that back together and I'm positive we won't even notice it. No one's going to suspect it. I'm sure it'll be seamless and won't come back to haunt me. Using my thumbs, I pressed some indents along the edges before attacking it all over with a wire brush to give it some rugged texture. I used a skewer to carve a wood grain texture into the foam, and if you're wondering why I used a skewer, I couldn't really tell you. I'm pretty sure I just kind of picked it up because it was lying nearby, but honestly it worked an absolute treat and I think the end results were wonderful. I returned all the pieces inside, now looking truly delicious with all that wood grain texture, and a seam line that's pretty much non-existent. I don't even know what you're talking about. And now that the end arches had taken shape, it was time to build the curved roof. So I brought the template back out so I could mark where the roof needs to stop for the walls. And after marking that with my trusty skewer, thank you skewer, I needed something to actually build the roof with. I was hoping for some Captain Crunch, but the captain was busy. And after removing whatever this is from my crafting material, I broke the box down before sketching and cutting out the panel for the roof, being sure to cut way too close to my thumb in the process. I rolled the panel to give it some creases that'll work in favour when gluing it in a curve, before admiring that I'd unintentionally sliced the bee's face in half. I returned with the template to work out how much excess I needed to trim from the roof before sticking it in place with some tacky glue. Once dried, it was on to filling the roof with those planks of wood, and I think I know just what we need. Perfect. Using some leftover sheets of foam board, I sliced them down to planks until I had a small collection of ones I wasn't happy with before replacing them with some slightly wider ones. I cut the planks to how they're depicted in the show before using some sculpting tools and my hobby knife to engrave a wood texture. Unfortunately, no skewer was used for this portion, however I did use my metal ruler to karate chop the edges, and as everyone knows, I finished up the rest of the planks before gluing them in place with some Mod Podge, and here's a great tip for when your bottle runs out: shake it for 5 minutes, squeeze nothing out, and then open a new one. With the roof looking good, it's now on to filling the top of the arch with more wood panels. So returning to the foam board, I traced out the outline onto the wrong side of the foam before fixing my errors and cutting it out. I made sure they fit snugly into place, being sure to ignore any prior mistakes that most definitely don't exist, before going over with the same wood texture technique I used for the roof. They were then carefully glued into place, and I made sure to start moving the building around before they had time to dry. I measured the entrance for the door, and with more foam board, I put together this little door frame that was then precariously stuck into place while balancing on tweezer packaging. But let's turn our attention to the roof. Ow, my attention! The roof has the little smokestack chimney thingamabob that goes here, so I began constructing its shape out of some offcuts of the Cheerio packaging. To keep this part curved, I hot glued a small piece of popsicle to link the edges together, and then dressed it in some smaller pieces of packaging to be the overlapping sheets of metal. Moving back to the main building, I started configuring how these base pieces were going to fit into place. So I traced out where I wanted it to fit in with the arches and began slicing away at it with a ruler before remembering where that got me last time, so I went in to finish the job with my hobby knife and fingers. And now on to trying to squeeze it into place. I didn't want that door frame to stand straight anyway, and from there it was a lot more tracing, cutting, and squishing everything into place. Once the pieces were adequate, I glued them down with Mod Podge, using pins to hold them in place and to hopefully bridge any gaps from the oversight in my measurements. Now let's leave that all to settle and move on to building this back wall. With more packaging on hand and using this mathematics approved stencil sheet, I got started on the back door. The Krusty Krab, like many cartoon locations, is known to subtly change its appearance from time to time, and the backside of this establishment is no exception. But I decided to base mine on this one, as to me it felt the most fitting. I cut out 2 pieces for the one door just so I could use the second one to make the door frame without needing to contort some other material to curve around it. I used the stencil to help keep the line clean and cut it out with my hobby knife. Oh, it's a bit stuck, is it? Oh, careful, you don't want to ruin it. If only I had a cutting utensil nearby, that would make this a lot easier. Hey, look at this thing! I made the porthole out of cardboard as well, and glued it all together until I had this adorable little door. I moved the door to a larger piece of card that would be the main panel of the back wall, before playing around with some offcuts to shape out the metal plates, being reasonably accurate to the reference image on hand. Happy with its layout, I glued it all in place, making sure some edges overlapped each other for depth. And then it was on to bedazzling. Rhinestones were individually placed for rivets, which is a painfully slow process, but the results are undeniable. I mean, look at this. He's so pretty. Now to wedge it into place to make sure it fits. Looking pretty good, and hey look, it's the other half of the bee. But now we get the joy of doing that whole process again for the inner wall. Except this time I did get to use this funky right angle ruler, so that's kind of fun, I guess. Now again, the inner layout of the Krusty Krab can be a little bit shifty, as a lot of the time this wall is typically shown to be pressed right up against the back wall in exterior shots, rendering no physical place for the kitchen to actually exist. But for the sake of this build, we're going to keep it against the back wall just to give me a little bit more space to do some interior pieces instead of making space for a kitchen that no one will be able to see. So it was more of the same for now, 3 doors this time though, one for Mr. Krabs' office, one for the kitchen and one for the bathroom. And then more playing around with off-cut cardboard pieces to vaguely match the metal sheet layout from the show. The whole thing got covered in rhinestones and it's looking pretty good. We'll glue the kitchen frame down after painting though. But with the walls done, it's time to work on the interior, starting with the iconic steering wheel tables. I used a sheet of EVA foam to trace out some circles before filling them with a smaller circle, before filling them with a smaller circle, and... Do I need to censor this? I originally gave each circle a number because I was planning to cut out each piece individually for painting to then glue them back together. And then I realized how much time that would waste, so decided to keep each piece as it was. I glued on a cardboard backing to give more strength to the foam before bringing back everyone's favourite skewer to be trimmed down for the handles. Now, this is my first time using hobby cutters, but I'm positive I will use them with the utmost care. And these cutters worked an absolute treat. But here's a fun tip for anyone else new to using hobby cutters. Don't press your thumb against the blades when you're cutting, as what you don't realize is that you're accidentally slicing off tiny pieces of your skin that you're not going to realize until you're washing your hands in 30 minutes and wonder, why is my skin peeling off? With all the handles cut, I began gluing them to the tables. And after adding each handle, I'd give it a little push just to make sure it wasn't sticking to the paper underneath. For the table legs, I glued more skewer to some cardboard and stuck them to the wheels. And that was the tables done. But how about some chairs? Since the seats are little barrels, I thought this inner tube from receipt paper would do. All I needed to do was mark them and cut them out. Easy enough. There we go, just give it a... This isn't working. Why isn't this cutting it smooth? Oh my god.
5 hours later. Piece of cake.
To plug the ends, I punched out more circular pieces of cardboard packaging and glued them on. With more cardboard strips, I glued them onto the sides for our barrel planks, before dressing them with these very thin slices of EVA foam to be the hoops. Perfect! Back over to this big boy, it was finally time to remove all the pins. I did go back in with some tacky glue to help fix some of the gaps, before moving on to the nails on the roof. Was originally thinking about using the pins, but the heads were a bit too round for my liking, so little cuts of EVA foam was used instead. Now about that chimney, you may remember this janky thing I made earlier that I now despise with all my heart, so I remade one out of EVA foam and dressed it up with rivets. And to join our little smokestack, I made the anemometer out of more skewers and rhinestones. Whew, anemometer. Try to say that 5 times. Anemometer, 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 anemometer. Oh, never mind, I'm a pro. For the windows and doors of the Krusty Krab, I cut some acrylic sheet down to size, making sure they fit along the way. I'll also be cutting this piece in half to imply the door, but there will be no functionality. Now the bulk of the building itself is done, but this order does come with a side of signage. So let's grab some foam board and eyeball the top of the clamshell with a pen. Now it's definitely looking like something, but let's cut it out and trim those edges at an angle to make it a little bit smoother. I stuck on this little curve thing that's at the bottom that you won't see after I cover it in clay and— Wait, did someone say clay? With more of this subpar air dry clay that I'm really trying to get rid of, I rolled it out until I had something resembling a baby Alaskan bullworm to then wrap around the skewer. I gave it a little twist for texture before going in with a sculpting tool to make it look more like a bamboo shoot. Then I used more clay to make the clam lips for the sign, which included covering that piece of foam from earlier entirely in clay, which means I probably could have just made it out of clay in the first place, but at least this does keep it light. And while I left the clay to dry and probably crumble apart, I could finally move on to collating all of the other pieces together for a good old prime. But we all know we can't prime without help from our good old friend, the
Wait! If that was you on the phone and you on the bus, then who was flickering the lights?
Mixing up a bit of paint and Mod Podge in my eyeball, I slathered it all over every piece to give it a prime, protecting it from the layers of paint and glue to come. Especially with cardboard, the Mod Podge can stop it from warping, which is mighty helpful. I left all the pieces outside to dry overnight so the wind could blow them all over the floor, but nothing was damaged and we could now move on to painting. Starting with the main building, the whole thing got covered in a base coat of burnt sienna brown. It looks a little rudimentary now, but don't worry, the dry brushing will be upon us soon. I used the same brown for the little barrels, and as those dried, I hit the anemometer with black. The table legs got a deep sea blue and then covered the underside with this red oxide. The same red was used for the handles and top side of the table, but only for the outer ringlet. I filled in the rest with a couple layers of yellow before going in with a blue for the center. A very simple dry brush of the original red paint mixed with white was used to make the edges pop, and that was the tables taken care of. Now to dry brush the main event. Dry brushing wood texture is my favorite part of any craft. I just find it so satisfying. So enjoy this montage of the many layers of dry brushing required for this build, going in with increasingly lighter shades until I have a look I was satisfied with. Some light strokes of metallic silver was added to the nail heads, as well as used on the barrel loops. And now that we were done dealing with the wood, it's time to move on to the metal. I started with the smokestack, drowning it in blue, before going in with lighter shades, dabbing it on but not pushing it all the way to keep those darker edges so it looks like the metal has been painted over and is aging underneath. The rivets and edges got a little kiss of baby blue, and this was pretty much to test out the paint job needed for the rest of the metal pieces. So it became the same layering of going in with increasingly lighter shades but leaving the darker edges visible, dabbing the paint on to avoid brush strokes and to give it that flaky look metal has when the paint on it begins to chip. And you know what, this is a visual medium, so I'm just gonna let you watch what I did. The bamboo got a base of orange, and then I went in with increasingly lighter shades of yellow to help pop all of the edges and to keep the orange in the recesses. And then for the clam sign, well, it took a couple layers of pinkish white and some dry brushing, but we got there eventually. I think. I printed out this image of the kitchen window from the show to fill in the frame before gluing it to the wall. I also recreated the little flags for the front of the building before slicing them out, giving them some little arms so that they could wrap around this rope I was about to hang out the front. I glued the flags to the rope before fixing the rope in place, and if you think the colour looks a bit faded on them, don't worry, I will come back to this later. But in the meantime, let's glue the chimney on top. I don't know why I did it now, I think I just got excited. Now with the leftover rope from the flags, it was time to recreate the netting that dons the side of the Krusty Krab. I cut each strand individually and then held it in place with pins until the glue dried, and secured some of the crossovers with more glue for strength. I printed out the little internal signs and the lettering for the front as well. The lettering was glued onto the blue EVA foam to give it depth and the blue edges as seen in the show. I did paint over the paper to clean up the colours, and then painted the anchor onto Mr. Krabs' office door. I hand painted the little signs that sit in the front windows, which included this help wanted sign and this picture of a burger with a very wavy patty. And with the sesame seeds accounted for, it's time to make a base. I found this round painting canvas that looked to be the right size, but to build it up a bit more, I covered it with a layer of foam board. I added these little side strips to make it easier when painting between sand and concrete layers, before marking out the building and carving the interior wood floor directly onto the base. This is the main reason as to why I wanted to give the base a foam layer, as having all the ground pieces in one seemed like a big brain move. And with the wood done, I cut the edges of the sides at an angle just to help it blend into the ground a little bit better. And after bashing the entire surface with a little piece of foil, we can now move it outside. I started to mix up some plaster and oh, careful there buddy, you don't want to make a mess. Yeah, I bet you're gonna start blaming the wind, saying it came along and started making a big mess, and oh no, it's happening. Oh, no, please make it stop. After mixing together some plaster, water, paint and Mod Podge, I slathered this thickened cream over the entire base, making sure to cover the edges too to blend in the layers of foam with the canvas. And to clean up the brush strokes, I used my fingers to dab on some excess water to smooth it out.
Are you feeling it now, Mr. Krabs?
I added some rocks for extra visual noise, and once it was dry, I could cover the thing in glue and sand. Though I should have used a lot more glue because I had to do layers and layers to fill in all the places the sand didn't stick. And even when it did stick, I needed to clean it up because it kept bunching, and then there was just glue and sand stuck all over my hands as I'm trying to make it clean because of course it sticks to me but not the base.
I don't like sand.
But we got there eventually, and once the top was properly covered, I could go through the same trauma with the sides of the base because I clearly didn't learn anything. but I did douse the heck out of it with watered down PVA glue. That sand wasn't going anywhere. But once it was dried, I brought the base back inside to begin painting, mixing Mod Podge with the base coat just to make sure all that sand was sealed in. After base for the sand was done, I hit the wood with a bright turquoise before going all over with lighter mixes for dry brushing. I mixed up a dark blend of black and blue for the base layer of the concrete that's around the Krusty Krab, using a small brush to clean up the edges against the lighter areas so I didn't make a huge mess of the colours. Some dry brushing was used to highlight the texture, but something I specifically wanted to do was this dotted paint job they have in the show, because I thought it looked cool. So using this teeny tiny brush, I dotted the entire piece by hand, starting with an initial layer of white before repeating with black, dark blue and grey. I know some might suggest I could have done paintbrush flicks to be more efficient, but I didn't want paint flying everywhere and I liked having control on keeping the dot sizes about the same, instead of accidentally ending up with a huge wad of paint somewhere. But I thought it was all worth it as I really loved the way it turned out. I gave the rocks a quick dry brush before painting the rocks in the sand a deep purple as a little ode to the rocks that can be found in jellyfish fields. Of course, I went over with many layers of dry brushing to make these rocks look absolutely delicious, and with that finished, the base is ready to go. So all I needed to do was give the ropes a quick wash to blend them in better, remove all of the pins, and then I repainted the flags because they weren't popping enough for my liking. Now we just gotta stick it all together.
Feeling it now, Mr. Krabs?
Thank you for watching today's build. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did making it, and as always, if you have any suggestions for what builds you want to see more of, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see you at the next video. Take care everyone, and I'll see you soon.
You're here, I'm queer, and welcome back to my channel. This video we will be tackling Bo Peep from Toy Story. I remember that she was the only one I really cared about when I was watching Toy Story 1 and 2. She was so beautiful, and of course, as a little gay boy, her dress was everything. It really made me sad that she wasn't in the third one. I just needed a strong female character to look up to. And thank goodness Barbie was there to fill in the gap. By the way, speaking of Barbie, did you guys know that Bo Peep was never supposed to be Woody's love interest? In the first movie, they wanted Barbie to be Woody's love interest. But of course, Mattel didn't know what the heck this story was going to be about. They didn't know what the movie's about, really, and they did not want to give the rights to Pixar. Until, of course, they saw how successful the first movie went, which boosted toy sales, and Barbie started to appear in 2, 3, and, I guess 4. Well, Bo Peep is making her comeback, and that fragile porcelain lamp is no more. My main goal is to give her the same beauty she has in the film and make it come to life. So let's go ahead and get it started. So I chose to customize the Epic Moves Bo Peep doll because she has a semi-made-to-move body from Mattel, and I do prefer a lot of posability. One thing that really makes this inaccurate is her rooted hair, and yeah, the face up. She looks like Toy Story 1 Bo Peep. So first let me remove all of her hair. After that, we can take our acetone or nail polish remover and remove her factory paint. And by the way, I do have all of my materials and tutorial on my website, hexton.com. That is hexton.com. When our canvas is all clean and ready, I take my epoxy sculpt and give her molded hair. I do really want to make this as close to the movie as much as possible, and that does require the molded porcelain hair. I first start by covering her entire scalp, then I add the details like her bangs and curls. When I apply epoxy to the face, I try not to remove her head from the body because it might disrupt the epoxy and crack in the end, even if it's completely cured. Actually, especially if it's completely cured. So as much as possible, try not to do it. After a day, the clay should be completely cured and ready for some pigments, but let's start with her face first. Of course, this has been prepped and primed with Mr. Super Clear. I sprayed it 2 times to make the pencils more pigmented. As always, I start by sketching the face first to draw out where things need to be before adding the details. I'm sure you can already tell that this is a far departure from my usual style of face-up, for I really want her to look movie accurate. My goal was to make her look like a porcelain Disney exclusive doll, which I'm surprised they didn't make one. I think they only made the one that talks, from what I know. Bo's face really had a drastic change from Toy Story 1 and 2, and it's crazy how far 3D animation has taken us. Personality-wise, I don't think that it's a drastic change because she's always been a leader like Woody. Like, Woody is the leader of Andy's toys, and she's the leader of Molly's toys. So I wanted to give her a smirk look like the promotional photos since it really gives her so much character. I know her catch lights is supposed to be on her right, but it works better having it placed on the left. And now we can start coloring her hair. I'm actually really happy with how the hair turned out. I made the curls a little longer than usual so it shows better from the side. This was 4 layers of yellow acrylic paint, and I did spray it with Mr. Super Clear so we can give it some shadows with chalk pastels. I mixed some deep oranges and browns to give her hair more depth. I also used it to give her curls some details. For her bangs, I used pencils and paint for that graphic detail. After all of that, make sure that she is completely set with Mr. Super Clear because we are going to glaze her up. If there are areas left unset with Mr. Super Clear, it could bleed out and ruin the entire face. So make sure that every single area is coated and set with Mr. Super Clear. I'm just using the Liquitex Gloss Varnish to give the shiny porcelain look, and I did this on her entire body. Well, those that will not be covered anyway. And now we are done with Beau's face, and I'm so thrilled with how she turned out. I feel like the before and after is quite drastic in comparison. So yeah, it's finally revealed. I have to be honest. For those who are wondering why Bo Peep looks so different from Toy Story 1 and 2, it's because I repainted her. It was me. It was all me. I was responsible for it. I'm kidding, okay? But, you know, if the shoe fits. So let's go ahead and move on down. So because her legs is basically a curvy made to move Barbie, I wanted to see if Barbie heels would fit her, of course. But they don't. I think they gave her bigger feet so she would hold poses better and stand on her own, but I really wanted to give her heels instead of the flats. So I decided to take off her feet and replace it with the Barbie feet. While I do love her Mary Jane flats, you guys know me. I love me some stiletto heels even more. I'm sure even if she was running around and doing some toy rescues, she could do it in some killer heels. Let's not forget to gloss up her legs. The bow that came with the Epic Moves doll is made out of plastic completely, and it doesn't have the grosgrain ribbon that Bo Peep had, like the details. So I went to my local fabric store and I got some actual grosgrain ribbon, and I'll just recreate it. There was no pink that matches her well, so I'm just going to go ahead and paint it. Then I just glued it on some painted Warbler for a well-fitted headband. For her blue look, or as I like to call her, the Gallivanter look, which actually came with the doll and has a really nice quality to it. However, it is missing a few details. I decided to brush that off, and I just wanted to add the piping detail on her front panel to highlight that area a little more. The skirt cape that came with this doll was a miss for me, since the fabric they used was really stiff and it didn't really sit well as a cape or a skirt. So I'm gonna make a separate skirt and cape to go along her. Yeah, so please brace yourselves, for I have taken out my sewing kit and I am with needle. You know how that goes. I'm using this Lycra fabric which imitates the sheen of silk, and I'll be making the polka dot pattern with a round sponge and fabric paint. Surprisingly, it actually dried fairly quick, so now I'm going to go ahead and hem the bottom for a cleaner look. Then I'm taking this lace ribbon I folded in half to add to the hemline of the skirt. Then I just gather the waist with a straight stitch, and I'm living for how big the skirt turned out. I wanted to add some more flair to the back, so I decided to add a pink bow for bow. Oh my god. Now let's make the cape. I have this blue satin that drapes, well enough, and I'm just combining it with the white lycra. To create a flatter hem, I'm using this craft iron to heat up the hemlines. And be careful if you have one of these, they are so hot, like Hades hot. Again, I take my textile expertise and create the polka dot pattern. Then I'm taking the lace ribbon again to add onto the hem. I just gather the cape leaving half an inch for the sides, and I steal the button from the stiff cape and I stitched it onto this one. So the cape actually does fit her waist, so technically this can still be a skirt, but it's not dramatic enough for my taste. Speaking of drama, I wanted that skirt I made to be filled with volume like how Bo Peep's skirt was in Toy Story 1 and 2. She was like literally a cake topper, like a walking cake topper. I'm making a crinoline with everyone's favorite word, Warbler. Well, it's my favorite word. The Pokemon sounding material that I have been using for a while. It's like my favorite material. I just cut multiple strips and heated the ends to piece them together to create a circle. And I think I made 4 circles in total that goes down in sizes. Then I just connect them with white cords. To prevent harsh lines and so that it blends a little better, I glued some frill tape to the crinoline. And now our skirt will be big and puffy. Now this is the top that came with the doll, and it's supposed to look like her original costume when combined with the cape skirt. Yeah, it's not good. For some reason, the quality isn't the same as the blue jumpsuit, so I decided to order the Thinkway Bo Peep doll that came with the full shepherdess dress and also Billy, Goat, and Gruff. Now, that doll is overall bigger than the Epic Moves Bo Peep doll, so I knew I had to make some adjustments. As you can see, it is highly detailed with the panel and lacing, and also the lace peplum is polka dotted, which is very accurate. So I'm chopping off an inch from her skirt, which you can already see that I already hemmed, so I'm literally just chopping off the extra, and I will be stitching the lace back. I also resized the bodice to fit her really well. For her staff, I'm just adding some cords to it to look a bit more accurate. So I mainly got the Thinkway toys for her dress and also, of course, the sheep. They are so cute in the movie, and I'm glad we now know that they have names. Unfortunately, these girls aren't as lively and vibrant as the movie, so I'm gonna be giving back some color to them. At first, I went for a pink color thinking it would oxidize lighter, but it was literally pink, so I changed it to this cream color. I painted their faces, ears, and legs. Then I sprayed the entire sheep with Mr. Super Clear so we can add more details with pastels. The key to this design was a lot of subtle gradients, and that can easily be done with chalk pastels. I wanted to give their wool some depth since the sheep is sculpted really well. As you can see, these are sculpted in lines. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight that. Just so you guys know, for your information, if you're planning to order this is literally rubber. The sheep is literally made out of rubber, like a rubber ducky. Like, you can squish it if you want. Of course, I will try not to because we've set it with Mr. Super Clear, and we're gonna be adding the glaze. So, you know, now it's fragile. It's porcelain. They're fragile. But price point wise, I don't think it's worth it. I think it was set to be 100 from Target, which I don't think is worth it, and it's definitely not worth what I ordered her for, which was 200 from eBay. But I really wanted them, and I know Bo Peep would be so lonely without her sheep. Again, I glazed the entire sheep with Liquitex to give the porcelain look. And now let's check things off and make sure we have everything. We have the Gallivanter suit that came with the doll, the bow, cape, skirt, crinoline that I made, the dress and bonnet from Thinkway Toys set, and staff and also the pink pumps. I think we are ready and we are all done, so let's go ahead and dress her up for her next adventure. Okay, I keep telling you, you can't rush art.
Girls, in position. Kristen's coming.
And remember, she's for display only. You handle her too much, she's not gonna last.
These boxes are the worst hobbies of all time. Once I show you what's in these boxes, you're gonna be like, Andy, you were so right. These are the worst. Oh, you're so correct and smart. Somebody help me. In life, there are many, many hobbies. Some of them are pretty neat. But what are the worst ones? Well, I have the worst hobbies right here. You may disagree with some of them, but this one, I promise you, everybody will agree it's the worst one. I'm gonna open it, and you're gonna be like, oh yeah, that's the worst one. Let's begin. Free soloing. If you do this, I cannot believe that you do this. If you don't know, free soloing is just rock climbing, but without any ropes. Isn't that dangerous? Correct. Phew, I thought. I think rock climbing itself with ropes is already very impressive. That's a lot of strength, dexterity, endurance. But I think I'm missing something with the whole no ropes thing. I'm gonna ask a question that I request nobody make fun of me for. Is free soloing any different from rock climbing? He doesn't know. I'm sorry. Like, if you don't have the ropes, is there a difficulty difference? I feel like the only difficulty difference is that if you mess up, you just don't get to climb cliffs anymore. Or anything anymore. Think of it like racing, where if you took out the seatbelts and the rolling cage and the airbags and everything that made it safe, it feels like racing in a race with that car would be just as difficult, right? It's just if you mess up, you don't race anymore. That used to be a guy. I personally like to make mistakes without dire consequences. Oops, I made a mistake. No, that's not a mistake. That's just a happy little accident. No, Bob. This is the end of the road for me. You will never catch me in a million years free soloing. I don't think there's anything that would make it worth it. Hey, man, we should go rock climbing. Yeah, okay. That sounds fun. Yeah, and what if we went without the safety equipment? What? Yeah, like we took off the ropes and the harnesses and we just went solo, freely. Dude, I'm gonna be honest with you, that's a terrible idea. What are you talking about? That sounds fun and exhilarating. That sounds dangerous in a fun and exhilarating way. No, in a good way to end up in the hospital kind of way. Well, Brett's out there doing it. He's probably having tons of fun. I'm freaking out so hard right now. Fine, let's make a bet. We're gonna go free soloing, and if we end up in the hospital, then I give you $50. I do need $50. I don't know, it just seems dangerous for no reason. And that's why it's one of the worst. You just make me so nervous up there. Wouldn't you rather try baking? At least put a mattress at the bottom. Personally, I'd rather stay inside and afraid of the world. It's better this way. Next up, I'd like to show you something. Oh God, I think he's sponsored by War Thunder. You would be correct! Run for sponsoring this video. Number 2, Pokemon card scalping. Collecting cards isn't the bad part. I myself have collected cards. Collecting cards is fun. It's been around forever. People did it with baseball, there's Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh! Nothing wrong with buying a box and just cracking packs. Who cares? That sounds fun. But there's a certain type of Pokemon card collector that nobody likes. The one that goes out and buys everything and fights with people and then there's nothing left over for anybody else. What are we doing? You're ruining the experience for other fans. You're effectively taking away toys from kids, like little Timmy here. And it's not just kids, it's Big Timmy too.
I want Pokemon.
I know. Me too, Big Timmy.
I also want Pokemon.
Oh. Okay. What happened to good old-fashioned burglary? If one were to just burgle, you could hide your identity, and you don't have to fight people in public anymore. I'm here to steal Pokemon cards. Put them in the bag. Did you bring a weapon? No. Then I'm not gonna give you any Pokemon cards. But I'm burglaring. Also, what's with your mask?
I thought it looked cool.
Hey, give that back! No, you're not giving it back. Did you put the Pokemon cards in the bag yet? Yes, I did. Yay! I did it! It's so bad. People in the community are talking about how they just can't get any cards for their kids. This person on Reddit says, I started collecting with my 6-year-old last year. We haven't found anything in store since March. She used to ask me about buying packs every week. After months of nothing, she stopped asking about 2 months ago. That sucks. Same story. We haven't seen anything since last November. Wasn't able to get any for her for Christmas or her birthday in February, and by the time she stopped asking, I was happy that she didn't have to be disappointed anymore. Ultimately, stop it. Number 3, cave diving. Specifically going into tiny holes in the ground that are difficult to fit in. Some cave exploring is cool and beautiful even. The beauty of nature takes many forms, but I cannot understand the drive to go underground in a hole that's barely fit for an insect to find another room full of rocks and like a lot of spiders probably. You were just in a room full of rocks. I don't think you needed to break your ribs to get to the next one. It's great that you want to get outside, but then you go outside to go inside of the outside. Just stay outside. The great outdoors, the sunshine, the fresh air. Oh look, a dirty, dark, muddy hole in the ground. Bro, get out of there. It's way better out here. I can have just as much fun in here as I have out there. Thank you very much. A butterfly literally just landed on my head and I'm listening to the birds chirp. How can a dark, dusty cave ever compare? The cave experience is just as a magical experience as you're having. A spider just landed on my head and I can listen to the natural, relaxing ambience of the cave. I have to be missing something. I don't know what it is. Am I too cynical? I feel like I have to be missing something. There's not a lot of hobbies that go from dangerous to lethal if it happens to rain that day. I don't think we're making it, boys. Even if I tried cave diving, I don't think I'd make it very far. I'd probably get, like, stuck between 2 stalactites at the entrance. I don't think we're making it, boys. Maybe it's a desire to, like, explore and adventure and find something new. You know, there's always a Minecraft for that. Or Hytale. Plus, you guys freak me out. Look at this guy moving through a submerged section of a cave. You guys freak me out. I'm freaking out. Okay. Number 4, bare-handed fish catching. It's actually really impressive. I just don't want to do it. I don't want to touch fish. I don't like the texture. Moving on. Now, are you ready to see the worst hobby? The one I alluded to in the beginning of the video? Well, there's a guy in there. What? Hey, get out of there. Shoo! Here is the worst hobby, which is simply the worser version of cave diving. Underwater cave diving. It's the same thing with the same freaking dangers, except for this time, there's a terrifying timer on it. Uh-oh, did you get lost and you can't find your way out? Eventually, that's gonna be a really big problem. In regular caves, there's like bats and stuff, but in underwater caves, who knows what's in there? Perhaps a creature humans have never encountered before, and probably for a good reason. You don't even need to have a boulder crush you in an underwater cave to meet your demise. You just need to be there for an amount of time. Do you guys remember how much oxygen we have left? Well, that guy's dead.